Now, before we get into this amazing conversation with Matt Hardy, be sure to check out his brand new podcast called The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy, which is co-hosted by my good friend Jon Alba. So when you're done with this episode, go check that out wherever you get your podcasts. Also, a huge thank you to Upstart for sponsoring this video. They've been supporting the channel for a while, and I just super appreciate them. If you have balances on multiple credit cards and you're just paying the minimum and you're barely putting a dent in your credit card debt, it can feel discouraging. Upstart can help you pay off your existing debt quickly so you can finally feel like you're making some progress. Whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high interest debt, or funding personal expenses, over 1 million people have used Upstart to get one fixed monthly payment with a clear payoff date. The thing I love about Upstart is they know that you're more than just your credit score. So instead of looking at just your credit score alone, they consider other factors like your income and your employment and other information on your application so they can help you find a smarter rate for your loan. You can check your rate without impacting your credit score in just 5 minutes for loans between $1,000 to $50,000, and you can even receive funds as fast as 1 business day after accepting your loan. Find out how Upstart can help you lower your monthly payments today by going to upstart.com/CVV or just click that link below in the description. Again, it's upstart.com/CVV, and Upstart's been such amazing supporters of the channel, so make sure to click our link so they know that we're the ones who sent you there. Upstart.com/CVV. Now let's get to the broken brilliance of Matt Hardy.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, there it is. So good to see you. Thank you for making the time to do this.
Yeah, man. It's great to chat with you again.
We got to start off with the hard-hitting questions too. How often do you listen to the song Matt Hardy 999?
Not a ton of times. People reference it to me all the time, but I have listened to it, and I do know the line where I'm specifically mentioned in it. And I don't want to curse myself, but something might come out of this a little later on down the road.
Oh, wow. So when they make a song like this, do they reach out to you first?
Well, it's funny. My wife is very much no, they didn't reach out to me first whenever they made it. But apparently there are a lot of people that are in the current rap scene, obviously, all the SoundCloud stuff, that were like big Hardy Boyz fans as they were growing up. We were from their generation. But my wife, who is like really working hard on being like a social media influencer with her TikTok, and she's got a whole bunch of stuff going on, and she's really dedicated time to like her TikTok and Twitch and whatnot. But like some of their people reached out to her, and so we spoke a little bit. So we'll see if something ends up happening.
So this song just gets put out, and your name's in the title, and you didn't even know this was happening?
I didn't. I mean, not until like people started buzzing me on it. No, I mean, there's like if you search like SoundCloud raps and whatnot, there's probably 10 or 12 songs that have like Matt Hardy or Jeff Hardy or Hardy Boyz in the title. Like there's just random references in it, whatever it may be. One of the first songs that my wife fell in love with, which she thought it was hysterical whenever she heard this line. She said, I'll pull a Matt Hardy like Swanton into that Pussy. I don't know what you can say here. But she thought that was the funniest shit ever. And I was like, you don't even do this one time, so they just mixed and matched a little bit there.
Oh, that's so good. And I think the thing,
we respond to whatever, whether you call me Jeff or Matt, I'll respond to either one.
The moral of the story here is like, everybody is a wrestling fan on some level, whether you're a diehard fan or you're just aware of the product, everybody's a wrestling fan.
Yeah. Secretly. So everyone has a little bit of love of wrestling in their life.
Well, congrats on the new podcast, Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. You guys are crushing it.
Thank you, man. Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. Each episode we do, I feel more comfortable with each one. And Jon is a great host, and he really steers the ship well and does a good job. I like to go into a lot of details. He does a real good job at like keeping me on the right path. So it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
You go into like an extreme amount of detail, pun intended. Like you pull back the curtain a lot. I think that fans really appreciate that.
I mean, I just kind of feel like that's the stage that I'm at right now. I am obviously getting towards the end of my in-ring career, and I'm at that point, I think, where I can make the transition into doing podcasting and doing other things. And I think it's almost time for me, especially things that are 20, 25 years old, to try and share all my secrets with the wrestling fans.
Is anything going to be off limits?
Uh, most I'm going to be pretty much open for business when it comes into everything. I mean, there's some things I guess that if I don't go into, we just won't address at all. But if there's a subject that I'm dedicated to talking about, I'm going to go into great length and detail about it.
Because I feel like fans are just wondering, like, when is the Edge episode?
Yeah, I'm sure we will talk about Edge. You know, it's one of those things we probably won't get into great depth with the Lita stuff, just out of respect for my wife. You know, I just kind of just don't go into that. I don't talk about that.
Yeah, but like I think that's especially because it all culminated with a match. And I remember buying that pay-per-view, and I don't know how old I was, 17 or 18. I legitimately thought you were going to murder Edge.
Was that the SummerSlam pay-per-view or the Unforgiven pay-per-view?
It was Unforgiven.
Yeah. You know, it went through my mind, you know, but I tried to be a professional at the end of the day. That's kind of my gimmick. I try and rein everything in and control my emotions. I've learned that lesson over my lifetime.
I distinctly remember buying that and being like, this is going to be like, we're going to see like something really bad here.
Right. It was, you know, looking back at it, we both had a really good relationship at that time. Whenever myself and Adam were working with one another. And it's funny because like the story just had leaked and it became something much larger than it was, especially to the fans, you know? So it was like something that we really had substance to sink our teeth into and really work hard and like tell a story where people legitimately thought we wanted to murder each other. And we tried to take advantage of that.
So when you talk about, you know, coming towards the end of your career, do you have a timeline in mind of how much longer you want to do this?
No, I don't. I literally am just playing it by ear. Maybe that's a Southern expression, but I am just feeling it as I go. And I'm just going to see how my body holds up. I mean, that's more or less what it comes down to now.
I mean, it's amazing when you look at you and Christopher Daniels and Chris Jericho and Sting. You guys are ageless in AEW.
Sting is so amazing, and I'm so happy to see Sting getting this run that he's currently getting right now, because obviously he was a generation like ahead of myself and Chris Jericho, you know, and for him to still be able to go out and be the mega star that he is and to get the proper spotlight shine on him, it is just so rewarding to see. And I'm so happy for him because he's like the best dude in existence too. And Chris Jericho, once again, it's amazing. His body has lasted as long as it has, because, you know, me and him, we were on that grind of WWE doing those 10 days on, 4 days off for forever, you know, on house shows. I mean, we worked. And same thing goes for Sting. Sting had an insane schedule back in the, you know, late 80s and 90s. So it really is amazing. And it's a real credit to, I think, everyone's longevity and just their toughness to still be working, you know, in 2022.
And Jericho just celebrated 30 years in the ring. This is your 30-year anniversary this year. Yes. What kind of big plans do we have for you?
Maybe I'll have a cheat day. I'm trying to diet real hard now. I'm trying to get back into the best shape that I possibly can. So maybe I'll have a cheat day for my 30 year.
Oh, that's amazing, Matt. Amazing. No, but do you have a match in mind that you want to have for that?
I don't know. I'd say maybe a perfect scenario. Maybe we do something where my brother, he's kind of on that same timeline, where his 30th year anniversary would also be in October of 2022. You know, maybe something where the Hardy Boyz have some sort of marquee match. I think that'd be a special way to celebrate it.
So you're saying with him by your side, not with him against, you know, on the other side of the ring of you.
Yeah, I think at this point in our career, I think it's we're by one another's side. We have each other's back. I think the days of Matt and Jeff Hardy going head to head, I think they're probably done. I think now we're teammates. We're not opponents.
It really just feels like it's a matter of when, not a matter of if, Jeff Hardy is coming to AEW, especially with a lot of things you've been saying over the last few weeks.
Well, I mean, we have like 12 appearances booked. I think we have a couple more in the works as far as doing some matches on Independence, and we have a ton of signings and whatnot. So we're doing all of that right now. And that's basically that's all I'm playing to. I was just talking to some guys earlier and they're like, "Oh my God, are you just saying Jeff's coming to AEW?" I said, "No, I haven't said that one time at all. I haven't referenced that because nothing has been done. Nothing has been decided. He's still technically under contract to WWE and Meek Mahan right now, you know, so we're excited to do these indie dates and all these conventions and signings and special shops that we're going to be doing these appearances at, because it's just going to be fun. It's almost going to be like the old days. We kind of feel like, doing these matches on the indies and doing these signings, although we're obviously very established in this day and age, it's almost like the beginning of our careers when we were just working together, doing, not a major TV gig or major company that was a global brand. We're doing, the grassroots companies and signing deals. So that those are going to be a lot of fun to do.
People really ran with that story when you said like, oh, yeah, Jeff's 90 days aren't up yet, but Tony Khan's got a lot of money. Who knows what might happen?
Well, I mean, that's my job as a wrestler and as a self-promoter. It's my job to keep you guessing. The best wrestling is wrestling that is unpredictable, when you're not sure what's going to happen next.
I mean, and that's really, that's kind of telling of the time that we're in right now, because I feel like everybody thinks that there's no kayfabe anymore, but then little things happen along the way where it's like, wait a second, is this real or not?
Yeah. Well, kayfabe has evolved. I mean, it really has. It has just changed over the years. It like takes on a different definition because, kayfabe in the 80s or early 90s just basically meant that like people didn't understand what the wrestlers in the ring were doing or what this angle or what this storyline was. Now, people have an idea. I swear to God, if you go online on social media, they'll swear up and down they're experts and they know what would work better than anybody else in the world. But, now that we have that power of them thinking they know what's going to happen, it's a lot easier to manipulate things in a different way to keep them guessing and make things unpredictable. So that's the new kayfabe. Meet the new kayfabe, different from the old kayfabe.
30 years in with everything that you've done in the ring, when you step out of bed in the morning, what hurts?
I mean, the obviously with my body, especially if I'm doing those leg drops for the first 14, 15 years, nothing hurts. I don't have like major, like I don't get up and I'm in major pain, but just like my lower back and like my hips, they're beat up and there's so much scar tissue on them in that area, just like flexibility. That's my biggest issue and hindrance in this day and age. And I'm doing what I can to try and alleviate as much of that as I can. And I'm going to try and optimize, my shape and condition that I'm in. As I said, I was on that diet, just trying to do a lot more stretching, a lot more yoga type movements, which will help me, help me have as much flexibility as possible at this age. And with all the bump cards I've filled over the years.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people talk about those moves where you land on your ass and like how bad that is for your back. When did you start feeling that?
I mean, I started feeling it in the early 2000s. Whenever I did the leg drop off the cage in the match you'd referenced earlier, Unforgiven to Edge, at the time it didn't hurt at all. But then the next few weeks after that is like, I couldn't walk straight for a while and like my back started catching. And that's actually the point where I changed the second rope leg drop where I'd go, ho, and do the leg drop into the very exciting elbow to the back of the guy's neck sometimes. So I wouldn't have to land on my, compact my spine and my vertebrae every single night, because once again, even at that time, we were working, if we're doing both brands where we were doing that quite a bit as the Hardys when we worked with one another as a team, myself and Jeff, when he came back, but we're still doing 5 nights a week. So it was a busy time. So it was much easier to jump off and land on your feet and follow through with the elbow as opposed to like, compacting your spine.
When we go back, what do you think was the match that really put the Hardy Boyz on the map?
It was definitely the tag team ladder match against Edge and Christian. That was the match that took us from being WWE wrestlers to becoming WWE superstars. We really turned the corner in that match, and you could tell like a huge change in just like the reactions we got at live events. And we were just viewed differently by wrestling fans because we had done something that had never been done before.
With like, Jeff had the crazy hair and he was doing the Swanton bomb. I feel like there was a lot of focus on him. And then there was a point where it kind of shifted and people went, oh, Matt Hardy's really good too.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like our synergy in some ways. That's kind of the dynamic between us, where he goes out and he does the flashier moves, and he's like the rock star. He has this undeniable, like this charisma and this presence. You just can't create. You can't manufacture it. It just is who he is. But with that being said, when it came to doing the fundamental stuff or the more basic stuff, or making sure we're telling a solid story, or someone to be like the the team captain who like, puts together this great game plan. That was always my role. So like we are at our best when we're together, and we help we help. I feel like we help add and contribute to the other person's weaker areas. And just together, we're so much stronger than we are individually.
Did you guys grow up going, we are going to be tag team wrestlers when we grow up?
Once we got to the point where we fell in love with pro wrestling, that was our goal. The only thing we aspired to do was be the tag team champions, the world tag team champions of the WWE, the WWF at the time, just one time. And if we did that, we achieved everything. We're good. We can pack it up and call it a day. But obviously we exceeded that many times over. So yeah, we're very happy and very blessed to have had the careers that we've had thus far, just achieve all the success that we have.
Well, look, if that's your goal to become WWF tag team champions, and then you do it and you're holding those belts, like then what? Then what's the next thought for you guys?
I mean, that's how it was, then like we wanted to break new ground. We wanted to be, do things that be trailblazers in the tag team division. And then I feel like we were able to do that with the tag team ladder match and the tag team table match. And ultimately the whole TLC staple was something that, kind of started through us, because the original tag team ladder match came from us, our idea. That was something we did on the independents against each other all the time. And I was the first one that pitched for the tag team tables match against the Dudleys, so just all those things rolled together. And then the whole TLC staple, which I feel like all three teams were obviously heavily influential in it, but if you look at the guys who took the risk in those matches, the majority of them were going to be Jeff, but the Hardys were typically the risk takers in the match. Christian would always be down for some bumps. Bubba and Devon, they were just kind of like the solid fundamental heels who really like kicked ass. It's so funny. Even like the time that Devon was upholding the ring where the title was with Jeff, and he was afraid of heights. Like we had to force him into doing that spot when they both hung off the ring, when my brother and Devon were hanging on the ring in that TLC 1, I want to say it was. And there was a point where my brother was like, he didn't care because he was fearless and he's insane and crazy and erratic and unpredictable. But he's just like kicking Devon hard. And you can see like he's walking up his body, kicking him. And Devon's like, stop kicking me, stop kicking me, stop kicking me. Like we could almost hear that, we could audibly hear that down underneath him. And then Devon took a bump. And then once he bumped, he like took a totally flat back bump and totally committed. It was very impressive. But he promised after that, he would never, ever take a bump from that high again. He would never, ever find himself in that predicament. We really did. All 5 members had to convince him to do that, because the way the match was structured, the way everyone was bumping and being taken out, that was just like his time to go. It fit with him better than anybody else. But he hated doing it, but I'll give it to him. Props to Devon. He took that bump.
That was a heck of a bump.
It was very impressive.
Do you remember the first time that a new wrestler, an indie wrestler, or someone new in the locker room would come up to you and say, I watched you growing up, you inspired me?
I do. Yeah, I do remember hearing that the first few times it happened. And now it's something that is, it happens very regularly now, which is very strange. And like people say, like, oh my God, I grew up watching you. I was a kid and I did this. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to make you feel bad. I remember there was one time I told Undertaker that whenever I, had the pleasure to work with him. Somebody's like, hey, easy there, kid. Hey, stop that. You're going to trying to make you feel old. What are you doing? But I just take it as like the greatest compliment, that someone grew up and they, envied you and they actually aspired to be a performer like you, or wanted to get into this crazy, insane business because of the stuff you did. So it's cool. It's very, very cool.
Do you remember how old you were when that first happened to you?
Yeah. It was earlier on, 2010-ish. One of the first people that said it was like Drew McIntyre actually. And I was working with him, that was 2009 or so when he first came over to America and he was new. And I did a little program with him when they had very high hopes for him and he was the chosen one in his first run. He used to dress up like the Hardy Boys and do stuff on his trampoline. Like he was very inspired by, they would jump off ladders and they would create these makeshift tables and whatnot, so like that was one of the first people that I remember say, oh man, I really want to do this because I love the Hardy Boys.
Wow.
So it's been a while. And looking back, that was 13 years ago.
But look, as great as the Hardy Boys are, I think that people forget how great that Matt Hardy's career has been and how great Jeff Hardy's career have been independently of the Hardy Boys.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of great stuff we've done. I mean, Jeff has really had a very impressive career as a singles wrestler. And I've done a lot of stuff too. I mean, most guys that you look at that are perceived as like successful singles wrestlers, I mean, I've had a better career than a lot of those guys, you know, which is crazy, but like, we're just so beloved together as the Hardy Boys, you know, that'll always be where we're at our strongest, you know, so I'm very excited about, you know, we're getting very close to that point, just a few more weeks, and then we'll get back to, you know, get the band back together.
A few more weeks. Yes, there it is.
I do really feel that like on our own, we have both been very, very successful, and we've done very well for ourselves as singles wrestlers.
How's Jeff doing? Because I think this video at the house show, I think made a lot of people really nervous.
Yeah, he's good. I think he's good. It was basically when he wants to share this story, he will, I'm sure. But I mean, he ended up being exhausted after driving all night. He was on late in the dark at SmackDown, the last match. And they had a 300 miles plus drive, and he got in very early in the morning, and then he had a family emergency and he was up early, and just, I think he was just exhausted and shot, probably beat up at the same time. And he was also very stressed out from his WWE job as well, you know. And I think for him, sometimes he kind of gets in his own head, especially if he's alone, like on the road and whatnot. I think it's better with me there too. I just think he feels a little more comfortable. Sometimes he really can get in his own head. And I feel like it's one of those things, and he was stressed because he had some stuff going on in his wife's life and a death in the family. And he hadn't slept at all that night. And then he kind of went into work exhausted, and you know, what happened is what happened.
And people painted this like, oh, this must be drugs. And then the drug tests came back and he's fine.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that was one of the things too. I mean, I have heard from a couple of people too that WWE feel like they did jump the gun in making this very rash decision. You know, they said like, you know, he had, you know, erratic behavior because he jumped over the guardrail. I mean, the honest to God truth was that was his last spot in the match. He wasn't doing anything else in the match. He was technically done. And he just felt like at that point, and this is one of those things about Jeff just being strange and different and peculiar in his own way, which makes him so unique, but he was just like, I'm done. And he just jumped over the guardrail and like took pictures with fans or whatever. And it's just so funny. It doesn't even seem extremely crazy to me when it comes to Jeff, because he just does weird things like that constantly. That kind of makes him who he is.
And I think that it seems like WWE is afraid to release people because they're going to show up on AEW now.
Yeah, I mean that could be a thing, you know, for sure. Because I mean, AEW, obviously we have a long ways to go before we ever would catch up to the global enterprise that is WWE. There's no doubts about that. I mean, they're huge. They just made their biggest profit ever, over $1 million, you know. So I think AEW is just offering an alternative, and we're taking a different approach to the way we present wrestling, and it really has a diehard audience, and that's something that I think in the big scheme of things is going to be good for WWE and Vince McMahon and company, because it's going to force them to freshen up their product and do new things as well.
You've wrestled in a lot of different organizations, and I'm so curious, is AEW like anywhere that you've worked before?
No, I mean, I could compare AEW to, you know, like a TNA when I was there, doing the broken mat stuff, where, you know, you really have a lot of input on what you're doing, or even the Ring of Honor runs I had as well. Like I would kind of be given a general idea, and I would kind of fill in the details. And that's kind of how Tony Khan does it. He kind of lets the guys paint their own picture, you know, make their own music. He has like a presentation of like a story. This is kind of what I'm thinking for the story, and you fill in the blanks. You know, where I feel like WWE has gone a little too specific, where they want to like tell every single part of this story. But sometimes if a person is performing a persona and it's not really true to them, and they don't feel comfortable doing it, I think that shows. Sometimes that comes across the television screen, you know, and you can tell that they just don't seem authentic, so to say. So I feel like when you kind of give the performers a little bit of a say in what they're doing, it's going to come off a lot more genuine.
What was it specifically that made you go, yes, AEW is going to be my next move?
I just knew, I know in Vince's head, he saw me being a producer already. And that's where he was. He just was going to use my mental abilities to help produce matches and be an agent or coach or whatever.
Your brilliance.
Yes. And I just still wanted to wrestle the last few years that I could. So that was the opportunity that is allotted to me at AEW. So that's why I chose AEW.
So there's a lot of photos of me in like my high school days and college days posing for photos like this, version 1.
V1.
And I want to talk to you about that theme song because it might be one of the best theme songs in all of pro wrestling. I can't even say "oh yeah" without going "oh yeah."
Right. Yeah, it is super catchy, man, and I love that song. I remember when I first heard it. I wasn't sure. I was certainly unsure when I first heard it, but then after 4 or 5 weeks of having that as my music, especially on live events and house shows, I dug it and I loved it. It became my jam.
You can slap a tornado.
I can dry up a sea.
So if that was version 1, we've seen so many different versions of you. What version number is sitting in front of me right now?
What comes after Z in the alphabet? We're pretty far down the line. I don't know. We've done several. So
with all the different versions of you that you've created, how do you know when something's going to work?
I mean, you don't. I mean, there's been stuff I've done that, hasn't always worked. And I it's a lot of trial and error. And I feel like sometimes you start doing something and then you just change it, or you kind of, you evolve it or morph it into something else. And you just have to feel the crowd and your audience and obviously what works for them. I'm still kind of in a process the whole while I was doing Big Money Matt, because the AEW audience truly is a lot younger than like the WWE demographic. That's something that I can 100% tell and feel. And they are more into a more sports centric type presentation of their wrestling, where I'm much more into the over the top, larger than life characters. And I dig that stuff. So I was trying to like kind of reel it back and be a little more subtle in the things I was doing, and just kind of been a work in progress. And my gig hasn't, as Big Money Matt now, has just kind of been more or less to help younger guys, and not even like I'm always helping them on the screen in their story, but just even backstage, so to say, just get them ready for the next time around. Like Private Party, for instance, I'm so proud of how much they've learned and how much they've grown. And like, whenever they get the chance, whenever they pull the trigger on them and they have a chance to like work as a top tag team and be the champs or whatever, they're going to be ready for it this time around. People
forget how young those guys are.
Yeah. They always do. I mean, the audience has no, they have no patience in this day and age. They want everything now. They want everything instantly. They can never be happy. It's a very tough crowd that we play to at AEW, but that's part of the fun and part of the challenge of it.
So with Big Money Matt, for example, what's the genesis look like? Like where does the first idea of this character come from?
It's interesting you even say that, because if we're playing this, we're going to be talking about the Big Money Matt character and the whole evolution of Big Money Matt on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy coming up. That will be very, very soon. That whole thing started where it started in Ring of Honor initially. And I started that persona because I was just like, these other guys, these Ring of Honor guys, they're working. A lot of the guys have like regular jobs, and sure, they're wrestling on TV and they're, wrestling superstars, but like, I'm legitimately rich and I've made millions of dollars in this business. And I can talk about all these, trailblazing and groundbreaking matches I've had, tag team ladder matches, tag team tables matches, cage matches, the TLC staple that I created. I can brag about all this stuff and legitimately be rich on top of it. So that's why I'm Big Money Matt. And the first person who really coined that name was Jay Briscoe, because I started off as the iconic Matt Hardy. And I was just saying, they're like, they're lucky to be there with me, like rubbing shoulders with me, even sharing an arena with me. Like, you really don't deserve that, because I'm like an actual legend. I'm an actual iconic figure in pro wrestling. So you really don't deserve to be here. You're just kind of a ham and egg or just weekend warrior. So that was kind of like the original beginning and genesis of Big Money Matt.
If we put all of your characters in some sort of a battle royal match, who do you think wins?
It depends on which audience you have. If you have if you have a diehard audience, it would probably be the extreme unkillable Matt Hardy, one half of the Hardy Boyz, who's just a more straight ahead, legit wrestler and daredevil. If you put it in front of a casual audience that likes to do sing along and theatrics and whatnot, it'd be Broken Matt Hardy.
I feel like Broken Matt Hardy, it would be very difficult to defeat.
He would be. He's very unorthodox.
Not speaking as big money Matt here, but as Matt Hardy, what was the first big purchase you made after signing one of your contracts?
Probably buying a car, but the first big purchase that I made was my house, because I just paid cash for it. You know,
And it's a compound. It's not a house.
Well, I mean, yeah, I've just continued to add on. You know, I said I want a big ass mansion. So I'm going to put money in a certain account. And I'm going to make sure I save up enough money. And then once I got to 400,000, I said, okay, I'm going to buy this house now. And I had it built from scratch.
How many acres is it?
Well, the Hardy compound that myself and my brother live on is about 90 acres.
Man, 90 acres and a house was $400,000.
Yeah. And I also have another house on that property. And then also have the dome deletion that's behind me, 6,000 square foot property. I have another property too. I mean, you know, you know, some of the big money, Matt, and being this mogul is real, you know, as far as buying multiple properties and whatnot.
Yeah. And when you talk about like life after wrestling, sure, that's going to be podcasting, but what else is it going to be?
I mean, I'm sure that there will definitely be other things. Like, as far as Broken Matt has a very, very dear place in my heart. Like, I would love to do a silly ass Broken Matt series, you know, whatever it may be. And I'm sure Jeff would be down for it too. He loves that nonsense as well, you know, and I think it could be really, really fun. You know, maybe one of these days we'll, you know, get Jeremy Barash back over, and we'll just we'll take JB and we'll do some more Broken Universe content.
Gee, I mean, if it wasn't for you guys, cinematic matches may not exist.
Well, thank you.
It's true. Like, and that was like kind of the savior in this quote unquote pandemic era of wrestling.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy that we were ahead of this pandemic doing that. And the whole reason I wanted to do that was like do something that was unorthodox and out of the ordinary, and just something that would give us a different avenue to tell a story, you know, something that would be very strange, like the whole Broken Matt Hardy. I wanted to be a throwback to like the early 90s crazy characters of the Papa Shangos and the Undertaker when he first started and whatnot.
You've spent most of your life on the road, but if anyone follows you on social media, you are such a great dad and you're always posting about your kids. And I wonder for you, where is the balance here between work and family?
That is something that I work very hard to find. And it is something that is very important to me. Like, my kids are the best. Like, I love being home. I do enjoy the getaways, but like to have kids, you know, especially my first was Maxwell, and then there was Woofy, and then Barty, and now we finally had a girl, which is Ever Hardy. But just to have these little beings that you created, and considering wrestlers have egos and they're celebrities and they get recognized and people want pictures and take autographs, like to have a being that you created that is more important than you would be ready to give your life in an instant for this being. I mean, it means the world. I mean, they are everything. They give me reasons to want to live forever. Like, and I say this all the time. We actually just had a very scary incident where there were a herd of deer in the road, and we actually hit a deer yesterday, and luckily it didn't go through the windshield. It actually didn't do terrible damage to the car, but it could have been a really bad incident. It told my wife where, you know, like, we have such a blessed life, especially me, as like, you know, I'm 47 now, but like, I have done everything I ever imagined I wanted to do in life. So like, if I did die tomorrow, I would feel complete. Like, I feel like I've lived a very, very complete life, and I'm very happy about that. But my children, we have to see them through. They make me want to live forever. So I'm doing everything that I can to tap into that fountain of youth and be as immortal as possible.
How many of your 4 kids do you think are going to be pro wrestlers?
I don't know. My joke constantly that I tell my wife is, I just can't wait until I'm retired. No more bumping for me. I just want to be the wheel man for the baby Hardy Boys. I'll just drive them around, brother. I hope to make the towns, you know, and I'll be their booking agent. I'll just be outside the ring. I'll maybe carry a cane like Michael Hayes does. Hopefully I'll have all brand new knees and hips at that point. You know, I'll just be the wheel man. I'll just drop them down to town.
I don't know. I feel like
I can teach them how to do this business the right way. They won't have to learn like Jeff and I did. They'll have a head start.
I feel like Broken Matt could be the manager of this faction of Hardy kids that you have.
It could be. And it's so funny that just how I do different characters. They're like, they just think wrestling is that to them now, and they love doing it. Oh yeah, we're just different versions. You know, like the other day, Woofy just said, "Oh, I want to do a Broken Woofy version. Will you do a video with me, Dada?" And like, we actually my wife did that just yesterday. We did that, and it's funny. And Maxwell said, "Oh, this is the big money Maxwell version, Dada." You know, so they all have like the different characters that they perform and do. And sometimes they just want to be the crazy Hardy Boys and jump off ladders. is so funny that they kind of interpret what I have done like that.
I love it. And I mean, you can tell how proud you are to be a father too.
Yeah. Extremely proud. I mean, nothing, I am not proud. I'm not more proud of anything else in the world than my kids.
What's the most proud moment in your professional career?
You know, it's hard because there has been so many things that have been like, you know, really huge, like landmarks, so to say. Like winning the tag team titles the very first time, that was a huge deal because that was the first thing that we truly set out to do. And achieving that was like huge. You know, we achieved a dream. And then like just all the TLC craze, all those matches are so famous and we just still hear about them all the time. And like they will live on in infamy, you know, for infinity, which is so cool. So that's a really honorable thing. And there's just like big moments you had, like whether it be the leg drop I did off the cage to edge, which people talk about all the time. It's still a very memorable moment that will always be replayed in wrestling history, you know, or a program with MVP where we had these crazy competitions. And it's something that we kind of, you know, took from like our real life competitive nature of being friends and it kind of translated to the ring. And then we made it work, you know, so just so many things, the whole Broken Universe, because it became like a viral sensation, even though TNA and Impact wasn't a hot wrestling program at that time. Those insane matches and characters and stories like became like viral sensations, you know, they're like, were everywhere. And I remember for the longest time after leaving the WWE, you know, in 2010, 2011, people would say, oh my God, like, when are you going to do another TLC? When are you going to do another TLC? The final deletion was so popular. No one had ever done this before with anything else I've done in my career. They'd say, when are you going to do another final deletion? When are you going to do another final deletion? That was crazy, man. That was wild. You know, so it was like very impactful. And that was stuff that was truly like the brainchild of, you know, myself and Jeremy Borash, you know, and Jeff.
And I can't wait to hear all of these episodes on the show with you and Jon Alba. You guys are doing such an amazing job. And I mean, the most exciting thing is you're just getting started with this too.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it is. We're really just, it's the tip of the iceberg. We really are just getting started. Our chemistry gets better. I get better at this gig. You know, it's a new thing for me, especially talking long form, and I'm getting better and I'm getting more confident every episode we do. And I enjoy it. It's a lot of fun to do.
Well, and the great thing is when you're going to be 20 episodes in, then you're going to be 120 episodes in, then 220 and so on. Right. People are going to find your show somewhere along the line and they're going to go, oh my God, I got to go listen to all 120 episodes right now.
Right. Yeah. That is cool. That's one of the great things about, you know, how entertainment lives on in this day and age, because everything is, you know, so much media that you can like go out and procure. You know, one of the funnest things I have done since, you know, the last couple of years where I've had a little more time on my hands is like go back and watch shows. I'm a big TV series drama show guy, you know, and just, I got to go back and watch The Sopranos for the first time ever, and The Wire for the first time ever, you know, The Shield, and all that stuff was just so enjoyable to go back. And you can find that stuff, you know, from years back. And I remember hearing about it when it was going on, but I was like working like a maniac nonstop. So that's hopefully how this podcast ends up as well. Like, you know, someone will hear an episode and come across and they'll go, oh my God, they've done 140 episodes of this. Like, I've got to go back and hear the first 139.
Yeah.
You know, so that is very cool that that's how media kind of exists in this day and age.
It's always such a pleasure to talk to you, Matt. So thank you so much for making the time. I know it's been a long day for you, so I appreciate you carving out some time to do this.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. Thanks for having us. And thanks for promoting the extreme life of Matt Hardy. We're very excited about this project and putting a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in it, and a lot of passion. It's really a labor of love, and we enjoy it.
I end every conversation with the same question because I love gratitude, and I wake up every day and I say out loud 3 things that I'm grateful for. So what are 3 things that you, Matt Hardy, are grateful for?
I am grateful for my children. I am grateful for my family, and I am grateful for my health.
Love it. Matt Hardy, thank you so much.
Thank you.